What was your motivation for making that movie?
Motivation was that it was needed. It was needed. So, we've been well, first of all, thanks for having me on here.
Yeah,
Right. So first of all,
you
thanks
were.
for having me. Thanks to the students listening and watching. I know a lot of pre-meds that do stuff with me. I know they were excited about this. So I know hopefully they're here watching this as well. And thanks for supporting the film, right? In the process of us putting the film together, you were one of the people who really supported us and backed us. And so thank you for that, right?
You're welcome.
So the motivation for all this was, something needed to be done. And, we've been doing Black Men in White Coats since 2013 and doing it in a variety of different ways. And it came to the point where I realized that a lot of people, even though for me, this information was no longer a surprise, and the people that I affiliated with, it wasn't a surprise. I started to realize that most people had no idea what we were talking about when we talked about the lack of diversity and lack of Black individuals, men specifically in the field of medicine. And I thought, how do you really reach the masses? And you look at people like you, Dr. Gray, right, who can reach the masses via media. So we knew we had to have a big media project. So that was a motivation.
Nice. Talk about the making of the movie. How do you go about okay, I have this idea. My goal is to increase awareness around getting more Black men into medical school. How, how do you go about like figuring out how to tell that story?
It's tough, man. That's one of the harder things that I've done in a long time. I mean, you think if we talk about medicine being hard, it was really tough. From day one, right? From like trying to raise the funds for it, all of it was really hard. So you get the funds for it, and then you have to plan what is this film going to look like. And after going through now, I understand how complicated making movies are. There's different ways to do it and things of that sort. So just learning that process, finding the right director, right? Somebody you thought could capture your vision. And actually, we changed directors before we started filming. Finding the right person who could capture your vision. So all that background research to even get to the first shoot date was super tough. There's tons of research, tons of thought, and then sitting down and planning how the film's going to look like, right? So we don't plan what anybody's going to say, but you have to plan the structure of the film. And we changed it so many times and cut so many things out. It's very difficult. The best thing I can say is it just takes a lot of time and a lot of watching what you produce over and over and over and over again to make sure the story is being told of what you're trying to tell.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
And the hard part about it is, again, you don't want to force the story. So when you're making a documentary, the story has to come to you.
Yeah. As you look at the kind of finished product of the movie at this point and have now screened it to a bunch of people, what has the response been?
It has been phenomenal. Like, we thought it was going to be good. We made the film. We thought the idea was good, obviously, or we wouldn't have done it, right? We made the film. We watched it. We're like, it could be good. There's, as somebody who makes content of any sort, somebody who has a craft of any sort, right? You always know there's areas you could have done better. But like, yeah, that's cool. But by the time we put it out, it was just crazy. I mean, the feedback we got, and it's still crazy. People are still watching across the country. We thought it would slow down, still going on. And I think the majority of med schools in the country screened it, right, in some shape or form. Libraries screened it, hospitals. And the best part so the feedback has been great, right? We have like over 1,000 reviews, and we have all these reviews that we haven't even that are just in the back end, not released. So I don't know how many we have now. But one of the best parts about it is when you make the film and then we do these Q&A sessions with hospitals and med schools and such all across the country, and you have like CEOs and presidents on the Q&As, and they're nodding their head, they're asking questions. So the decision makers are getting engaged.
Yeah.
So the best part is seeing the decision makers wanting to do something.
Yeah. So for students watching this now, or whoever's watching this now or in the future, what is something that's tangible that someone can do right now today to affect diversity of our medical providers in the future?
Mentor somebody. I always tell the story, and people who've seen me do stuff, they'll know the story. I talk about where does the word mentor come from. So we throw this word mentor around a lot. We don't really mean mentor when we use it, right? The word mentor comes from the Odyssey, this long, read in high school or something like that, right? This epic journey about this guy named Odysseus. He's going on this long journey. He's going to go fight the Cyclops and slay dragons, do all this crazy stuff to save the day, right? But he's got one problem. What's his one problem? His one problem is the fact that he can't take his child with him. He's got a son, Telemachus. And when he takes Telemachus, is going to be too dangerous. So what does he do? He goes to his buddy's house, walks over there, knocks on the door, says, "Hey, mentor." That's his friend's name. His friend's name is Mentor, and that's where the word comes from. "Hey, mentor, I'm going on this long journey. I'm going to slay the Cyclops, do all this stuff. Can you look out for my boy while I'm gone and raise him up the way that I would have him be raised?" So when we think about what does that word mentor mean, how much actually goes into that word, it's a real responsibility, right? That's what we need. We need people doing that. Counseling, coaching, advising, we need all that too. But when one individual says, "What can I do today with the resources I have?" I said, find somebody to mentor. If you're a pre-med, mentor a high school kid, right? If you're a med student, mentor a pre-med, and so on.
How do you do that? Do you just like throw up a big sign on your door, on your car, be like looking for mentees? Don't go around with candy. Be like, hey little boy, I got some candy for you. You don't want to do that. How does that look like in actual practice? Because I think there's always fear, just from a psychology perspective, of mentees looking for mentors, of like, oh, I don't want to bother them, they're busy, I'm going to take up their time. And then from the other way as well, of the mentors just not taking 3 minutes to do something that can tangibly reach out and touch someone. How do you recommend a mentor like put up a banner to say, hey, like, reach out to me?
Yeah, I mean, it's super easy. I mean, just reaching out to a school. I'm reaching out to a school, right? So, especially now that everybody knows how to do Zoom and all this stuff like that, the first step could simply be go back to your old high school. I'm talking to pre-meds right now. So go back to your old high school and talk to your science teacher, your principal, your counselor. Somebody don't say, "Hey, I'd like to do a Zoom Q&A session or something like that with the students to tell them what my college experience has been like," right? And you can do it once, you can do it every quarter, whatever you want to do. But trust me, after you do that first one and say, "Hey, I'm available to chat with somebody," people, they'll reach out to you. They'll reach out to you. And if they don't reach out to you, that's on them. But just know that you went out there, you made the effort. But I'm willing to bet that they will reach out to you after you do that first one. And if you really, really want to mentor and they don't reach out to you, go find a different school, right? I'm based in Dallas. There's tons of kids, and where I'm at right now, South Dallas, tons of kids in South Dallas who are looking for people to help them out. There's no shortage of people who need guidance. It's just on us to know how to ask, like what you're suggesting. How do we go out there and actually reach them?
Yeah.
Go through the schools.
With the power of technology, I know you've played with the podcast world and using social media and media in general, obviously making a movie as well. Do you think it's potentially important for a high school student, for a pre-med student, to maybe start a blog, start a podcast, to start sharing their stories?
I think it's beneficial. Whether or not it's important, I don't know if I'd say the word is important. It can be important.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think it's beneficial. It's beneficial for others to hear your story, but perhaps even just as, if not more important, it's beneficial for you to have a place where you can clear your head and tell your story and communicate with people. And I mean, Dr. Gray is the king of podcasts, right? So imagine, think about how much you've learned, not just about how to podcast, but think about how much you've learned from podcasting, how much reflection you've done, how many people you get to talk to. It's beneficial for your own personal growth. And I always tell my students, I say, it's not about the end results. It's not about getting into med school. That stuff is cool, whatever, but we can find people to get into med school. What we try to do is, create leaders, right? And the leadership development happens along the process of who you're becoming. So when you're podcasting, when you're blogging, when you're, doing vlogging, whatever it is that you do on a regular basis, you're growing, right? And you're becoming somebody else. And at the end of the day, hopefully you get in med school, that's what you want to do. But what will happen is at the end of the day, you're going to be a better individual for having gone through that process.
Yeah. For everyone watching, go ahead and ask your questions. We'll bring them up for Dr. Dale, and we'll have a conversation. Dale, talk about your journey. Where did you start out, and how did you end up here?
Yeah, so I always tell people that I always knew I was going to be a doctor. I didn't always know I wanted to be a doctor. So say, hey, Dale, how's that possible? I'm an immigrant. I was born in Nigeria, but I grew up here in America since I was 3 years old. And an immigrant mindset, a lot of immigrant parents will kind of push medicine on your kids or something like that. Medicine was never pushed on me, but it was made known that it's a good career.
Yeah.
It was made known. So in the background, I always kind of heard about medicine and stuff like that, right? You always heard about it. And then for me growing up, man, you talk about things that were influential. I mean, media wise, the Cosby Show,
Mm.
right? So many black men, black women, people who look like me. The Cosby Show was kind of it. And it's not even the fact that he was a doctor, because we didn't know what an OB-GYN was, right? OB-GYN, however you want to say it. We didn't know what that, I didn't know what that was. But what I knew was there's a black man, he's a doctor, he's got a nice house, he's got a beautiful wife, his kids look like they're doing a good job.
Yep.
That's a lifestyle that I could see myself doing. It was not, if I'm being real, it wasn't even about save impacting lives or, I'm an ICU doctor, right? It wasn't even about the ICU. It was about, man, this guy's doing something good and I can tell he has an impact on society.
Yep.
Right. And then there was another show called A Different World, which wasn't about medicine, but it was about a bunch of black kids at HBCU. So that showed us what it looked like to be in college.
Mm-hmm.
And those were kind of the starting pieces. My older brother, Dr. Daniel, he ended up going to medicine. So after that, for me, I had a mentor, a role model, somebody to follow right behind.
Nice. George asks here, as a black man, for increasing diversity in healthcare, are my chances of getting to med school higher if I have a high MCAT and a high GPA and a low MCAT? What are your thoughts there?
I as a black man, increase diversity. No, I don't want to say that. They're not higher, and I don't want anybody to have that thought that because I'm a minority, I can get by with lower scores. Right? We don't want you guys to have that mindset. So that's never what I want to preach. You guys want to go, and I know George is also. So shout out to George. What up, man? So you don't want to ever have that mindset, right? You want to have the mindset of I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna kill it, 528 all day, every day, right? That's the mindset you want to go on with.
Yeah.
At the same time, the point of the film, point of what we do, what a lot of people are saying is your chances aren't higher because you're a black man.
Yeah.
Your chances may or may not be higher based on your experiences you've had, some of which may be related to the fact that you're a black man, right? Like what kind of environment did you grow up in? Pretty much what people really want to know is the distance traveled. How far have you come from where you started? That's what they want to know. Getting the 528 on the MCAT, all that stuff is great. But just because you have a higher MCAT score and higher GPA does not mean that you have higher merit. That's the mistake people make. They think, oh, I got the higher MCAT. MCAT is not the definition of merit. Trust me, nobody cares. In my situation, nobody cares what your MCAT is anymore.
Your patients don't ask you every day?
Yeah, nobody cares. My patient don't even ask me where I went to med school, What your patient
you don't have that on your license plate, 528 MCAT?
First of all, I didn't get that anyway. So it wasn't going to be on mine. But
45. Sorry, you're old like me. 45.
No, not even close, man. So in med school, I don't remember. I was below average for my class, entering class. I'll tell you that. I think I had like a 25 or something, which, I think it was average. It was whatever my year, I had the average for the test takers.
Yep.
I was fortunate because I had a GPA. I made straight A's in college. So I had that going for me, but my MCAT was bad. But something I do want to tell you guys too. So if you struggle with the MCAT, my MCAT wasn't, I guess I don't call it bad, it was average for whatever it was for people who took it. My MCAT wasn't good by any means, but my board scores in med school were great. Were very good, right? So a lot of people have this thing like, oh, I did bad on MCAT. When I get to med school, it's going to be, nah, like my board scores were high, like,
boards are nothing like the MCAT.
Exactly. So the boards are nothing like the MCAT. So that's something for people who might be struggling with the MCAT to keep in mind.
Yeah. I want to get rid of the MCAT so bad. What specialty are you in?
Pulmonary and critical care medicine. And I went into that specialty. So, when I was in med school, I thought about everything, right? I thought about, doing every special, like a lot of you do. When you got to get to med school, you're going to think, I want to be as good as, surgery wasn't my thing because I just couldn't stand. I would get bored so fast just standing in the operating room. Because when you're not operating, it's not as fun, right?
Yeah.
So I would get sitting there retracting, whatever. I shadowed in radiology, but I fell asleep while I shadowed, so that wasn't cool for me.
That dark room always gets you.
Yeah, ophthalmology. I actually published. I did research in ophthalmology. But man, just something about staring at the eyes all day. After I'd done it, it just wasn't for me. I'm a thinker. Anybody who knows me will know that I'm about problem solving and such. So medicine was right for me. And then once I got into medicine, I still remember one day I was talking to my brother, and I was like, man, I think infectious disease is the hardest field, the most challenging field, right? Because they got all sorts of crazy stuff they have to figure out. And my brother was like, are you crazy? He said, Poem crit is the most challenging field. I was like, what, really? You think so? So I started thinking about it more and doing some stuff in it. And then I rounded in the ICU for the first time, and I was just freaked out, man. The first time you go in the ICU, loud machines, people on live, life support, all this stuff. Um, but I think I ended up gravitating towards Poem Crit, because I thought it was a challenge, and I wanted to kind of jump in the fire. At the same time, the impact you get to have on people's lives, and
Yeah,
it was a good fit for me.
that's awesome. Good question here from Jeremy. What advice do you have for the BIPOC pre-meds that worry about there not being a great deal of diversity in medical school? All right, when you look at it, if you're one of 3 Black men in a class of 100 or 200, it potentially is lonely, right? What's your advice for a student in that situation?
You have to form a community, like one way or another. I know it's lonely. There were 2 in my class when we started. And guess what? We worked out together. We, we were at each other's houses till like midnight all the time, and we were like best friends, right? But at the same time, even if there's only 2 Black people, you can be friends with people who aren't Black, right? So form a community. That doesn't matter what they look like. What you need to do is find people who love you, right? Find people who have the mindset that you have, who want to see you succeed, and be around those individuals. One of my biggest struggles is people talk about, hey, Dr. Dale, he's a Black man and white coach guy, diverse medicine guy, whatever. I it's hard to do, but I keep on trying to remind people you got to take it above race, right? Because race is skin deep. You got to take it above race, and you want to find people who want to see you succeed, and you want to be around people who want to see you succeed. With that said, race does matter. It is lonely. I was lonely, right? In med school, for us, we rely heavily on our SNMA group, Student National Medical Association. So it's a group of individuals who want to see the African American population do well, and student support group. So we did tons of stuff together. We had a strong SNMA group, right? Our diversity office of the med school, we made sure we knew how to get support from them, and we were very active and engaged in that. So a lot of times what you'll see is a lot of underrepresented minorities, people in med school. You see that you're very active and engaged in community stuff, because a lot of us kind of find our passion there. So many of us, we did what we did on campus, but we were engaged in the community around town, doing stuff with kids and such. And then that builds up your community, that builds up your confidence, things of that sort. But the most important thing along the whole journey of life is network. You got to create a strong network.
It's so important to surround yourself with people who believe in you and want to see you succeed. Unfortunately, not everyone is that way. What advice do you have for students who potentially are surrounded by, or they run into people who discourage them, whether because of their race or for other reasons?
Unfortunately, that happens more often than not, right? So the first thing you need to do is check yourself, right? The first thing you need to do is stop and think, like, is this for me? Is medicine really for me, right? I give a talk, it's called the GRIND Talk. And one of the things, GRIND stands for goals, reasons, information, network, discipline, something else. But one of the things we talk about in GRINDs, we talk about the fact that you have to believe in yourself before other people can believe in you. So if you're somebody who can be easily flustered by what other people think about you, then what that tells me is that you haven't taken the time to really think, is this for me? Do I believe that I can accomplish this? So that's the very first step, right? Is build your foundation, make sure you're strong, make sure you know what your passion is, and make sure you know how much you're willing to put up and go in for this, right? And once you have that confidence, when other people come to you, you got to have that confidence first. So you got to believe in yourself first. But after that, when other people come to you, the first question I ask myself when somebody tries to discourage me is, I say, are they right about that thing? That's the very first question I ask myself. So if Dr. Gray comes up to me and says, man, Dale, you're horrible at placing central lines. You can't do procedures in the ICU. I'm not gonna be like, man, Dr. Gray, whack, man. He just out here talking. I'm gonna stop and think, is he right? Am I struggling with central lines? If I figure out, like, man, I am struggling with central lines. Next, you have to be able to do that without coming down on yourself. That was very challenging. But the next step is going to be, how can I get better at it? That's the next step. The next thing is not, oh, I need to go do something else, right? And Ryan, I know you see this all the time, and I see it where pre-meds will leave the pre-med world, or they'll come to me saying, should I do something else? Because an advisor has told them, that they can do X, Y, and Z, right? And
Mm.
that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to stop and say, hey, how can I get better?
Yeah.
Right. That's the key. The key is I already told myself I'm going to do this. How can I get better? Now, if they tell you, if Ryan's like, hey, Dale, you whack, you can do procedures, I'm going to stop and say, what's he talking about? I just nailed the last 10 that I did. Like, oh, he's just a hater, man. I'm not messing with him. Right. So that's the way I approach these things, you know.
Yeah.
And again, go and also the network. So make sure you have a network of other people around you that you can go to for that support whenever you are getting discouraged.
Yeah. So Danielle asked, since you've been involved and started Black Men in White Coats, have you seen other organizations start up? And I'll expand on this question. How can students potentially find organizations to join and potentially start their own organizations, whatever they're potentially interested in?
Yeah, we've definitely seen a lot of organizations start. I mean, we've been doing, we started diverse medicine before Black Men in White Coats.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we've been doing this stuff for over a decade, right? And you gotta keep in mind, back then social media wasn't hot. Like when we started doing this stuff, none of this stuff was on social media, right?
Yeah.
Like there was it was nothing, right? So there was no. Now if you
You're
go,
dating yourself, Dale. Come on.
I am. But I mean, if you go on Instagram or Twitter, you find tons of pictures of medical stuff. About none of that was there, right, when we started this. And so yeah, tons of stuff has started since then. And it's a great thing. Tons of organizations, things of that sort. How can you go about starting an organization? The first thing I would say is make sure you're sounding your craft. So as a pre-med, before you talk about starting an organization, make sure your grades are right? Make sure you're in position to succeed as an individual before you start trying to do other stuff. If you're on the airplane, it gets a little bit shaky, turbulence, cabin pressure drops. What do they tell you? They tell you to put on your mask first before helping somebody else. So take care of yourself before you start trying to get other people to that spot. Then once you know you're solid, then bring other people on. That's the first thing. The second thing I would say is affiliate with organizations. What I get on a regular basis, I get people coming up to me asking me, how do I start a company? How do you do this? How do you do that? How do you do that? And nonprofits all the time, right? It's our nonprofit. It's not all what you think it is, right? It's not what people think it is. People think, oh, it's glamorous. I got a business, whatever.
Start a business, drive a Lambo. That's easy, right?
Yeah. It's not really that. So I tell people, don't officially incorporate or form an organization like that, a startup, whatever you want to call it, unless you have to. Unless there's nothing out there doing it, there's nobody you can partner with. Don't do it because, what does it mean? It means you're dealing with tax work, you're dealing with lawyers, you're dealing with all sorts of stuff that you don't want to deal with. So I think the better route to go is to find an organization that's doing it. So there might be some on your campuses or whatever. Find an organization that's doing it and say, hey, can I bring this idea? Can I be the one to chair this sector of your organization? Right. And that's the way that I would go about it first. And then once you get the experience and such, if you want to go off and do something bigger, start raising money and such, that's cool. But start off partnering with somebody that already knows how to do it,
Yeah. How can people get involved with what you're doing?
So you can join our email list. Go to blackmenandwhitecoats.org/email and you see all the stuff we do. We do a quarterly mentoring lunch, and we send that stuff out via our email list. So we have a quarterly virtual mentoring lunch. We have clinical cases we do online. Of course, we have our youth summits we do across the country, and those shut down with COVID last year, but we're going to bring those back 2022. So just be on the email listserv and we'll keep you posted.
That's awesome. As we're talking about all of this, one of the things that potentially students are asking, and probably not students of color are asking, is why is this important? Why do we need to push for so much diversity?
Yeah, America is a diverse country. It's becoming more and more diverse. Well, first of all, the first reason is you should just love your neighbor, right? That's the first reason, I think.
Yeah.
To me, it's silly to think like, why would I not want to help somebody who's sick, right? Mm-hmm. So then, how does that relate to get more diversity in medicine? Is because we understand, and this isn't just me talking. We have data for this, right? Saying the diversity improves healthcare outcomes for people from diverse backgrounds.
Yep.
So Black men specifically, they did a study a couple of years ago, NBER study. It showed that for Black male patients, if you have a Black physician, you're more likely to listen to that physician's preventative healthcare recommendations. So you're talking get the flu or get your vaccination shots, check your sugar, check your cholesterol, things like that. You're more likely to listen if the doctor looks like you, right?
Yep.
We know from AAMC surveys, when you graduate med school, AAMC is going to give you a big survey. So we know from the AAMC surveys that that students who are in more diverse classes, when they graduate med school, they feel more prepared to take care of diverse populations than students who don't have diverse classes. So diversity within the system impacts education. So we know that as well. It helps education for everybody. And overall, even if you talk about from a business perspective, bottom line, there's tons of business studies to show that diversity improves business outcomes financially and everything. So overall, diversity improves things across the board. You get different perspectives, different ideas, right, and improves the care for everybody.
Yeah, definitely does. Lots of data on that. Carolyn asks, when going to medical school, I expect to be in a new location and shocked by all that the first days of med school will entail. When should we go and seek out that support system and build our network?
Before you start med school, right? Before you start med school. So start building your network ahead of time. Depending on where you come, if you're somebody who feels though you need to go through the Office of Diversity, reach out to the Office of Diversity. Say, I'm coming in. Could you connect me with some med students there? And hop on a Zoom call with them, phone call, whatever. Start building that network before you get to campus, right? You want to walk in ready to focus on your book. You don't want to walk in trying to figure out, what books you need or where the library is, something like that. All that stuff needs to be ready and done before you step foot on campus.
Yeah. Yeah. When I started medical school, again, dating myself, like Facebook didn't exist, right? We didn't have Facebook groups for the whole incoming class already set up before we started medical school, where you could go and network and find roommates and potentially do all these things that you can do now. So definitely try to set up those friendships as soon as possible and make those connections as soon as possible. That's definitely a huge part of it. Well, what has been the biggest surprise to you making this movie?
COVID. we
Darn
we
it.
didn't. Yeah, no, we didn't know COVID was gonna hit right in the middle of the filming, man.
Yeah.
So imagine we're trying to film and we're flying across the country, right? We're gonna film Hill. It's like when we went to go film Hill Harper, like everything was cool, but COVID hit, and then these are actors, right? These are huge actors and such, and they don't want to mess up their profession, right? These guys can't go do anything if you give them COVID. So it just really made us have to kind of step up what we could and could not do. If you watch the film, there's a scene where we're doing Shane Battier via.
We lost Dr. Dale. I'll give him a second, see if he can come back. Again, if you have questions for Dr. Dale, he'll be with us for a couple more minutes. There he's reconnected. Specifically Black men, right? Who this movie is made for, to help them understand that they're needed, help them understand that they can do this, that there are people who look like them, talk like them out in the world. So, or out in the physician world. That is the hope. So as you see, Dr. Dale has gone away. We'll see if he tries to reconnect again. But if not, that's okay. We'll just hang out here for a little bit and I can answer some questions. So if you want to type some questions into the YouTube chat, we'll just do some general questions as well. That is the link for the movie. What is the link for the movie? This is going to be my third time watching. That's awesome. Let me get that link real quick. So you can take that link. Let me see how many are left here. Oh yeah, plenty of tickets available. You can go watch that. I recommend you do. All right, we got Dr. Dale back.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. I had to switch to my cell phone.
That's all right. I just had to do a little dance for them to keep them busy.
Kind of dying out for some reason.
That is all right. So you were talking about Shane Battier and needing to do that virtually.
Yep. Yeah. Again, that was because of COVID. So the biggest surprise was how much we'd have to kind of change and shift our strategy and things, to accommodate, COVID.
Yeah.
And that COVID actually also gave another opportunity to kind of strengthen the points, the message of the film. So.
Yeah. That's life. Always adjusting to new data, new stuff getting thrown at you. Nigerian Girl 008 says, what do you see as your next project?
Oh man, we got some stuff going on right now.
Drop it. Breaking news.
I don't know. We're talking about making another film about something. So we'll see how that one goes. And we have other stuff. So I mean, we've got other companies and stuff that we do stuff with that aren't like out in the open, right? So those things don't have as much to do with kind of pre-meds as much, but we've always got stuff going on, man. We've always got stuff going on.
Yeah. Rabita 79. A general MCAT question. What do? You don't have any energy.
Getting accountability, buddy. Yeah. Very important. So if you don't have the energy, you need somebody who's going to give you their energy, or who's going to hype you up, who's going to hold you accountable to what you said you're going to do. And if you don't have the energy, sometimes you might just need to take a break, right? So I'm not saying take a hiatus, right? But take a quick break, revamp, re-energize. But if you want something bad enough, like I think about my son loves basketball, plays basketball all the time. And he gets tired, but I don't have to like tell him, hey son, go out and practice. I did a show some years ago, Sister Circles, this some TV show in Atlanta. I was on it and the host was asking me, kind of about pushing your kids and how do you know how well they're doing, how, like should you push people going to medicine, et cetera, et cetera. I gave my answer and then she was like, we have Beyonce's dad on here. And Beyonce dad brought up the point about, how do you get your kids to be successful? And so she said, if you have to tell your kids to go practice, then it might be more for you than it is for them. Right. So the point it was making is like he never had to go tell Beyonce to go practice. It was energy. She always had the energy for it. Right. So one of the things about kind of going into medicine is that should get you so fired up. And you're going to be tired some days. Some days you're going to need to take a break. I get it. But I'm talking about across the board overall. You should be so fired up to be a medical doctor. Nobody ever wants to go study, but the end goal of knowing, hey, I'm going to be a doctor, that should be enough to get you up and going, right?
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, it's the same in medical school. You're going to get tired in medical school, and surrounding yourself with that network is going to be huge. Residency, same thing. That's life. Sarah, loved the documentary. Really enjoyed watching it. Dr. Dale, any final words of wisdom, parting words of advice for everyone watching here with us today?
Yeah, chase your dreams. Chase your dreams. I mean, if you don't make it, it's on you, right? I always tell people like that, oh, like this happened, my advisor didn't do this, blah, blah, blah. Hey, I'm just going to be real with you guys because you guys are big boys and girls. If you don't make it, nobody's going to care, right? Yeah. It's going to be on you. So it's your dream. It's what you want for your life. Chase it, chase it, chase it. Don't let anybody else hold you back. You need to make this happen for yourself so you can go on and help other people. So do it with a humble heart. Do it as a servant for others. It's not to get rich, all that stuff. You got to make the money. Money's good. Money's going to be there. But do it because you want to help other people, right? And chase that dream.
Love it. Carolyn asked one final question that I think is a perfect question to ask before we go. How do you stay true to yourself and your culture when you're surrounded by people who don't understand where you're from and why you act the way you do?
It's very difficult, so there's something called code switching we talk about, right? So code switching, this idea of the way I talk to my wife or my friends and such is different than the way I talk at work. It's not that you're out or anything like that. Is when I'm here at work, my job isn't to make people like me, whatever. My job is to conduct myself in a way that's going to be give my patients the best possible care, right? So my patient can understand. I lived in the Midwest for a long time, and in the Midwest, those guys up there, they can't talk right. So those of you guys from the Midwest, some of you guys can't talk right. Like there's this like you guys have heard Nelly. I don't know if Nelly's still popular for you guys. So it's our generation, but like right there, all these right. So if my patient doesn't understand what I'm saying, I'm gonna change it to say it in a way that so my patient can understand me. Right. So that's the first thing that's important, right? Remember, you're there for the patients. You're there for the patients. You're not there to make people want to. You're there to act in a way that's going to help your patients get better. But on the other side of it, go there, be your authentic self. As long as you're not like impacting patient care, be your authentic self. That's fine. You want to be in the situation that you can perform at the best and the highest degree. And some people aren't going to understand it. They're just not. That's just the way life is. But you have to be your authentic self and adjust to the point, to the degree that you have to adjust for the sake of your patients and the care you're trying to provide at the end of the day.
Love it. Dr. Dale, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you so much for your time and dedication to hopefully getting more Black men into medicine, because we need them, for all of your time and effort on Black Men in White Coats, the documentary, and just for being awesome, for being you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do for all the pre-meds, man. You're bringing up the pre-meds of the country, man.